Write an engaging and emotional story based on the title, The Millionaire's Baby Refused to Eat. Until the poor maid cooked something no one expected. Begin the story with hook who joints the viewers at the end. Immediately capture attention, also motive viewers to like video and subscribe the channel. Develop the plot with emotional depth and relatable characters, including key challenges and their resolutions. Ensure the story maintains a smooth pace suitable for an 400-minute YouTube video, leaving a strong, inspiring message by the end. Plain paragraphs but long story as you can based on 2,000-word estimate. In the heart of a sprawling mansion overlooking the glittering skyline of New York City, a tiny cry pierced the silence of the opulent nursery. Little Alexander Harrington, the heir to a billion-dollar empire, lay in his crib, his chubby fists clenched in defiance. For weeks, this precious baby had refused to eat, turning away from the finest purees crafted by world-renowned chefs, rejecting bottles warmed to perfection by the latest gadgets money could buy. His parents, the powerful tycoon Victor Harrington and his elegant wife Isabella, watched in helpless agony as their son's health dwindled. Doctors came and went, prescribing exotic formulas and therapies, but nothing worked. The world saw the Harringtons as untouchable, but inside these marble walls, a storm of desperation raged. What no one knew was that the solution would come from the most unlikely source, a humble maid named Maria, whose simple act of kindness would change everything. Stick around to the end of this heart-wrenching tale, and if it touches your soul like it did mine, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the true power of humanity. You won't want to miss what's next. Victor Harrington had built his fortune from nothing, or so the magazines claimed. Born into modest means, he clawed his way up through ruthless business deals, amassing wealth that could buy islands and influence presidents. But his greatest treasure was Alexander, the miracle baby born after years of fertility struggles. Isabella, a former model with a heart as fragile as fine china, doted on their son endlessly. Yet, for all their riches, they couldn't force a single spoonful past Alexander's lips. The baby, just 6 months old, would wail at the sight of food, his once plump cheeks growing hollow. Specialists flew in from Europe, nutritionists analyzed every ingredient, but the child grew weaker by the day. Victor paced the halls, barking orders at staff, while Isabella wept in private, fearing the worst. Enter Maria Gonzalez, the quiet maid who had worked for the Harringtons for only a few months. She was a 28-year-old immigrant from a small village in Mexico, sending every penny back to her ailing mother and younger siblings. Maria's days were filled with scrubbing floors, laundering silk sheets, and fading into the background like the shadows in the grand estate. She had no formal education beyond high school, no culinary training, but she carried the wisdom of generations in her calloused hands. Maria had noticed the baby's cries echoing through the house, a sound that tugged at her maternal instincts. She herself had lost a child years ago, a stillborn daughter, and the pain lingered like an open wound. But she kept her distance, knowing her place in this world of privilege. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across the mansion's gardens, chaos erupted. Alexander's refusal had escalated into a full-blown crisis. He hadn't kept down food for 48 hours, and his pediatrician warned of hospitalization. Victor, red-faced and furious, dismissed yet another chef, slamming the door so hard it rattled the crystal chandeliers. Isabella collapsed into a chair, her makeup streaked with tears. The staff scattered, but Maria lingered in the kitchen doorway, her apron dusted with flour from an earlier task. She had been tidying up after the failed meal preparations, and something stirred within her. A memory of her grandmother's remedies, simple and soulful. Hesitantly, Maria approached Isabella. "Señora," she whispered, her voice thick with accent, I might know something to help the little one." Isabella looked up, her eyes swollen and skeptical. What could you possibly know that the experts don't? But desperation won out, and she nodded weakly. Victor, overhearing, scoffed. "A maid? Fine, whatever. just don't make it worse." Maria swallowed her fear and stepped into the kitchen, her heart pounding. She wasn't cooking for show, she was drawing from the depths of her heritage, from the poverty-stricken kitchens where love was the only ingredient that mattered. As Maria worked, the kitchen filled with unfamiliar aromas, not the sterile scents of gourmet blends, but the warm, earthy notes of fresh herbs and simmering broth. She hummed an old lullaby her mother sang to her, the melody soft and soothing. No one expected what she prepared, a simple caldo de pollo, chicken soup made from scratch with whatever scraps she could find in the pantry. But it wasn't just any soup. Maria infused it with memories, cilantro from her village market, a pinch of cumin that reminded her of family gatherings, and a secret, a dash of her grandmother's magic blend, nothing more than love-ground garlic, onion, and a prayer whispered over the pot. She pureed it gently, not with fancy blenders, but by hand, mashing it until it was smooth as silk. The Harringtons watched in stunned silence as Maria carried the bowl to the nursery. Alexander, fussing in his mother's arms, caught a whiff of the steam rising from the spoon. His cries quieted for the first time in days. Tentatively, Isabella offered it to him. To everyone's astonishment, the baby opened his mouth, tasting the warm liquid. His eyes widened, and he swallowed. Then another spoonful. And another. Tears streamed down Isabella's face as Alexander ate hungrily, his little hands reaching for more. Victor stood frozen, his empire forgotten in that moment of pure miracle. But this was only the beginning. As days turned into weeks, Maria's soup became a ritual. Alexander thrived, his cheeks filling out, his laughter filling the mansion. Yet, challenges loomed. Victor, ever the businessman, saw opportunity. "We could bottle this," he declared one night over dinner. "Market it as the Harrington baby elixir. You'd be rich, Maria." But Maria shook her head, her eyes downcast. "No, senor. It's not for sale. It's from the heart." This sparked tension. Victor pushed, accustomed to getting his way, while Isabella defended Maria, seeing the maid as a savior. Maria faced her own demons. Whispers from other staff accusing her of overstepping, and calls from home reminding her of her mother's worsening health. She wondered if she should leave, return to her roots where she belonged.